Good afternoon and welcome to Liquid Lunch with the Regional Water Authority here on 103.5 WNHH, also on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Kevin Watsey. I'm the Director of Public Affairs at the Regional Water Authority. But more importantly, I am a water nerd, and today we are totally going to nerd out on water because we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics. It's something I talk within the community about all the time. We are going to talk about careers in the water industry, careers at water utilities. And what a better way to do that than with two of my colleagues at the Regional Water Authority. So we have Jennifer Prue, who is our HR manager at the Regional Water Authority, and Tom Carfora, who is a HR generalist, and he heads up our recruiting efforts at the Water Authority. So like I said, today we're going to talk all things careers because most people don't realize the amount of various professionals it takes to actually run a water utility. But before we get to that, we're going to do what we always do, which is start with the origin stories of our guests. And since we have two guests, it'll take a little longer, but it'll be twice as interesting. We'll start with Jennifer. Jennifer, welcome to the show, and tell us your story. Where'd you grow up? How'd you get to where you are now?
All right. So I am originally from Galveston, Texas. Spent most of my childhood there. And then moved up to Connecticut. And wow, I've been in HR for 12 years. I worked for Mohegan Sun, for Foxwoods, and for the Genuine Parts Company. And so for HR, a lot of employee relations, compensation, benefits, and most importantly, recruiting, because the magic happens in recruiting, at least in my opinion.
What's the biggest difference between Connecticut and Texas living?
We have 4 seasons in Connecticut. In Texas, you have one and it's hot, and that's it.
And Galveston, is that on the Gulf?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Some nice green ocean water. Yep. Oil rigs right in the distance. Yeah.
Oh,
great swimming.
Oh, great. It sounds like it. Absolutely. Tom, what about you? Tell us your story. How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kevin. Or us, I should say. Born and raised in New Haven, lived here for over 30 years and recently moved to Branford a few years back. Started out my career after I graduated from Southern in recruiting. Always wanted to help people and help organizations identify talent and help their organizations succeed. So started out in technical recruiting for some agencies. After about 10 years of doing agency recruitment, wanted to be more diverse in my background and wanted to do more HR operational functions. So I became an HR business partner at the Knights of Columbus and really started to build upon their strategy for recruiting, build out their careers pages, build out kind of the onboarding process and really that whole life cycle for what happens from your application to your hire. So, with applicants having many options these days, you want to make sure that when you are recruiting, you have a good story to tell. Also, they have a good experience from that, from the moment they apply all the way to the point of hire. So, while I've been more diverse in my career at this point in the overall HR functions, recruiting has always seemed to find its way back to me, and something I value because I think you're on the front lines in many cases. You are the first person that applicant may speak to when they're seeking a job with your organization. So the best story you can tell, or the better story you can tell, may lead to a future hire and overall positive experience for that individual.
That's awesome. So before we get into the careers in water, I got 2 questions. One for you, Tom, and then one for the 2 of you. Tom, I'm going to make you a hero or a villain of our listeners, depending on your answer. You said you grew up in New Haven pretty much your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite pizza?
Oh man. The top 2 are definitely Pepe's and Modern.
So Sally's
is great, but top 2 are Pepe's and Modern.
Okay.
My son, I'd say, lean towards more Pepe's now because he likes the chicken pizza there. So
gotcha.
That's his favorite.
So there you go. And my question for the 2 of you, before we launch into this, I always love to talk to HR folks and ask them this question, especially because you guys both said you've been doing HR for a while. As you interview folks, especially the young folks just coming out of school, have you seen any differences between when you started your career interviewing people and the kids now coming out of school? And like, are they asking different questions? Are their attitudes different? Are they, because I think back, I've been out of college now for 25, almost 30 years. And I know that the kids coming out today are thinking differently than I was thinking. So I'd love to hear your, quick assessment of that.
Yeah, I think, well, it's definitely changed because I started my career a really long time ago. So I was always taught when you walk in, you need to have a nice firm handshake. You need to look the person in the eye, the person who's interviewing you. You need to have your resume polished and you have to dress professionally. It's more of those social cues and skills that you really need. And I have a teenager, I have a 19-year-old and I have an 8-year-old, and I know how much screen time they have. And I feel like because of the amount of screen time and the lack of the human to human contact, I feel like some of those social skills are kind of lacking in our upcoming generation, which is something that I think, applicants who are going into the field, they really need to focus on those interpersonal skills.
And you've seen them kind of fall off in the recent years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. What about you, Tom? Have you kind of seen the same thing?
I think it's on a case by case basis. Certain individuals and certain I guess skill sets that you're looking for may differ. What I've noticed that when I'm speaking to an applicant or a potential person I want to present to a hiring manager, I want to understand how excited they are for that job. And if I don't see that excitement displayed during a phone conversation or a virtual interview, that maybe make me hesitant to present that individual, right? Hey, maybe you have some of the basic skills we need, but are you really going to be the right cultural fit for our organization? Or do you really want this position? And I don't necessarily see, again, depending on the role, as individuals displaying that as much as I used to earlier in my career. Not to say it doesn't still happen. But I think overall, if you're looking to, provide value to an organization, you should be excited about doing so. Or if you're applying to a position for an organization and you're interviewing for that job, I think, being excited for it is critical.
So I'm going to emphasize what Tom just said and tell a very quick story about my first job out of college. It was down in Washington, D.C. It was a political job where who you know meant more than what you knew. And this job that I got, I was told after the fact that the reason they hired me was because I had the most enthusiasm of anybody they hired. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have an internship in politics. I was as green as you could possibly be. And they told me after the fact that that was what won them over, was that I just was enthusiastic about it.
That's what we see now is they're like, we're getting ready for an interview, excited. And they're like, yes.
Yeah, and I've heard too, I've heard some other human resources folks tell me that they've seen a shift where people are coming in now more interested in what the next job is than the actual job they're interviewing for. Have you guys seen that?
Yes.
Yeah, like where's my path? Where's,
Yep.
Rather than I just want this job.
Exactly. So that's the biggest question I think for this generation is what number one, how much money? Number two, how fast can I get to the next level?
Yeah.
But again, it's not a video game.
Right. Yeah.
Now you can't get to the next level very quickly.
That's an interesting video
hard
game,
work and dedication and development. But yeah, I do see that now. Yes.
All right. So now we got that out of the way. I'm very curious about things. I do want to talk about some careers in water, and my brain thinks very methodically. So the way I kind of structured this talk was in a very methodical way, thinking about the water treatment process and the water utility, and then kind of going through the jobs at each stage of that. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, we're going to start at the source, right? So the Regional Water Authority has all of these reservoirs and all of these wells, and we own 27,000 acres of watershed property that we protect, and it protects our source water. So I wanted to talk about some of those jobs, the jobs that are directly related to the watershed management, we call it raw water, the source water that we have. So with that, we have aquatic scientists on staff. We have natural resource specialists, arborists, foresters. So let's talk about some of those jobs, I guess, and what kind of backgrounds you need to have those jobs.
Sure.
And
okay.
Whoever wants to start.
Yep. I'll go ahead and start. So, of course, at the Regional Water Authority, we do have a saying that at RWA, you have more than a job, you have a purpose. And we stand true by that statement. We've been around for 175 years and we're still going strong. We have employees that have been employed with us for a very long time. We have very low turnover at RWA. So I want to say we're very proud of that. Our alarming statistic is really 30% of our current employee population will be retiring soon.
And that's not only a water utility, that's a utility
Period.
number,
Yes.
period.
Yes.
Yeah, the
All
utility
across
industry,
the
they call it the gray tsunami is what I've heard it called,
That
because
sounds scary.
yeah, because 30% could probably retire this year.
Yeah.
And then we would be in quite a bind.
Exactly. And with them leaving, they take that job knowledge with them.
Yes.
And so we will probably, lack of better terms, we'll find ourselves in a pickle in about 3 years when these folks decide to retire. So, we're really looking for professionals who are looking for career development opportunities, someone that can come in entry level and that can grow with the company, that can stay at RWA for a very long time and have a fulfilling career as these people have for the past 30 years of their life. Going back, of course, yes, water treatment, it starts with raw water. If we're looking for where's the beginning, it's right there, raw water. Can't drink it, gotta treat it. So we do have aquatic scientists, and they go out and they monitor the raw water. They collect and analyze within the field. And it's mostly related to the water quality data that we have, migration of fish, which is apparently very important, aquatic invasive species management, and some stream flow regulations. Often when we have a severe weather and, I think we just had a flood not too long ago in this area, a couple weeks ago, that definitely changed the water. Eventually, it changed it to the point where there was an increase in, bacteria and microbes and everything. So all those kind of conditions affect the water, and our water quality technicians, our aquatic scientists is out there through rain, snow, collecting all of this data and reporting out on that. So, people who are interested in, learning more about water and where raw water comes from and testing it, you really need a background in biology or environmental science. We've even employed people that have a marine biology background and ecology. Our current aquatic scientist says you really should have limnology.
Limnology, yes.
And I had to say, I have no idea what that is. Is that the study of limbs? And it's no, that is not. It's the study of different bodies of water, because we have our watershed, you have ponds, you've got our reservoirs, you have groundwater. There's so many different bodies of water, and this specializes it. And there are classes out there when you are taking environmental studies that you can, sign up for a class in limnology. Very interesting. Along with education, we are, typically looking for 2 years of field experience. Again, this is field work. Your office is the world. It's the forest. It's the,
it's on a
the
boat
lakes.
a lot
it's
of
on
time.
a boat,
Yes.
in
We
the
have a
middle
number
of a
of
lake.
boats.
So we have to make sure that, our applicants or candidate who could be chosen for this position, they have knowledge in monitoring that surface water and groundwater using different types of probes. They have to have some kind of watershed experience. And again, they must love the outdoors. It's in all kinds of weather. They're out there, collecting all of this data. So that is our, aquatic scientists, but it's not just the water. We actually have people who are tree huggers. And they call literally tree huggers. Yes. We have our foresters, and at RWA we're really about environmental sustainability, and that's very important to us. And our mission is that not only do we supply that clean water to our customers, but we are environmental stewards. And in being environmental stewards, it's very important that we have experts, such as foresters, that know all about trees. So as a forester, they will evaluate and monitor the forest conditions. So they recommend like cultural treatments. Is it silvicultural is basically controlling like the forest growth, which is something that I did not know. And being in this job, I learned so much about these, scientific, different environmental careers. They also, the control the forest growth, the composition and the quality, and often timber production. So people will say, well, what do you mean timber production? You're cutting down trees. Well, there are trees that are diseased. There are trees that are invasive. There are trees that can actually harm the quality of the water. So our foresters go out there and make sure that we've got healthy trees. And if we don't, we do have a timber production that we do.
Yep, and our foresters work hand in hand with our arborists.
Yes.
So I like to joke that the arborist can see the trees through the forest, and the forester can see the forest through the trees.
Yeah, exactly. They can see each other through the
yeah.
trees. They'll be like, hey, yeah, right through the trees.
Yeah.
So the forester, basically they go around, they mark the trees, they manage the timber and other forest product sales that we have there. They supervise the harvesting and working with contractors and local regulations of the state, like DEEP. They do plant trees. So not only do we take down trees, but we also plant and replace trees with healthier trees. And we just maintain the property boundaries and just making sure that we document any kind of encroachments, anything that would end up near our reservoirs that could potentially, harm the water quality. So if anyone ever wants to be a forester, of course, there's education that goes along with that and certification through the state. So we basically look for people with a bachelor's in forestry or environmental science, natural resources, biological sciences. And in order for, someone to be a forester, you do have to get a certification through the state of Connecticut, which we actually help the person who comes into the position get this certification. We give them 9 months and a little bit of training just to help them pass their certification with the state. So that is a great career plus. You come in and you're like, wait, my job is actually going to help me get the certification. That is a great plus for us.
Yeah, it really is a fantastic bonus at the RWA that we support our talent and support them in their career journeys so that they can go as far as they want to go. Mm-hmm. So as you said, so in this world, we'll call it source water, environmental, that really, you need a college degree, right? Mm-hmm. That's a tough one to get without a college degree, right? Because you have to have such specialized knowledge. I mean, one example I'll give real quick about the aquatic folks is, reservoirs are susceptible to like algae blooms, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really these aquatic scientists who are recommending to everybody else, how do you treat the algae blooms? And remember, it's a drinking water source, so you can't just throw 1,000 different chemicals at it because then, one solution is creating 100 more problems. So it really, that position specifically is vitally important, not just to the company, but to every single customer. Because if they don't do their job right, it impacts everybody.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I work very closely with I call them my friends in the environmental team. We have, like you said, foresters, arborists, and these folks are dedicated to what they do. And with 27,000 acres to protect, they are never wanting for work.
Right. And exactly. They're not desk jockeys. I mean, these are professionals that are out in the field, calibrating equipment, collecting data, running tests. They're out there, like we said, in the middle of the lake.
Yeah, there are weeks that will go by that I will not see them in the office because they're, as you said, their office is Lake Gillard or Saltonstall.
Exactly.
So anything else you want to talk about specifically with that area? Because I'm going to move down the water pipeline from there.
The water pipeline.
Yeah.
So you know what? We went from raw water.
Yeah. So let's go
to treatment.
We got to treat that water, right? So, Yeah, so now we've taken that water out of the reservoir. We're sending it to the treatment plant. There are some very smart, talented folks, more smart, more talented than me, that actually know how to treat that water so that you can drink it without, getting sick. So let's talk a little bit about that. There's there's water treatment plant operators. There's those other treatment jobs. If I wanted to operate my own water treatment plant, what kind of education do I need? Do I need a college education? Do I just need certifications?
So, I'm definitely glad that we ended up with this. We went from the raw water, aquatic scientist, forester, where you need those bachelor's degrees, or master's or anything like that. You need that education. For the water treatment operators, we have a water treatment operator and training program. And what I love about this program is that our new hires can come in with hardly any experience in water treatment. They will need to know a little bit of mechanic experience, maybe working with tools, even if it's like hanging up a picture.
So you're hired right into this training program?
You're hired right into the training program.
And do you need a
yes.
college education to get hired?
You do not need a college education. So what I love about this is that all you need is a high school diploma or GED or equivalent, and a valid Connecticut license. That's all.
Driver's
license.
Yeah.
Yes. And really just the basic knowledge of mechanical concepts. And even if you don't have that, that's okay. We will train you on the job. This is an operator treatment water and training.
Yeah.
I get it all backwards.
Yeah. Oh, water operator treatment.
See, look,
and
I'm
training.
making you
yes,
do it
you
too.
are. Yes.
So yeah, what we really want the water treatment operator in training to be able to do is to learn on the job, hands-on training. So, we would love to, talk to a lot of the local high schools, because I have a 19-year-old. I know that when you're 16, what do you know what to do with your life? They say, oh, you need to go pick a college. You need to go pick a career path, and a lot of students are like, well, I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. Why not get a job and be trained on the job and then have 4 years to get your certification that you can take anywhere with you? Like that.
So the training program's a 4-year program?
Well,
within the company?
We give you 4 years to
Okay.
get your license.
Gotcha.
So we typically like the new hires to start with a class 1, go to class 2, 3, and then once you get your class 4, now you have that potable water, the drinking water. You have that license, and now you're a full-blown water treatment operator, no longer in training. So yeah, it's a great program. Basically the duties of a water treatment operator in training, you are learning with a mentor. You're learning how to collect daily operational information, such as like the chemical level readings, learning how, what goes into our water, the amount of chemicals that go into the water, of course, good chemicals, not bad
Yes.
chemicals. Assist in filling bulk. You just learning to perform like daily lab, tests as well. So there's a little bit of that biology in there that you're learning, and a little bit of chemistry. They help repair some of the water treatment equipment. And really, you're learning OSHA regulations. You're learning the regulations that are, PURA, in the state of Connecticut.
Yeah.
So this is a great fit for someone who, hey, is straight out of high school and wants a career in a trade.
Yeah, I've actually taken the Water 101 class,
Yeah.
the first class, and I will be honest, it's not easy, but I was surprised at how much, and this was in New Jersey, but I can't imagine it's any different here in Connecticut. I was surprised by how much mechanical was in it. So there was a ton of information about like pumps and the different types of pumps. And, I wasn't very good at it. That's why I'm in communications, but it still helped me really understand a lot more. Can you share just in general? So if I go through this program and I get my 4 license, what's the salary range for a 4 in the state of Connecticut? Like, can you give like a round number?
I think do you have that?
Yeah.
I think, it's usually around 40-ish, $40 an hour.
Okay.
And even to start, you're talking the higher 20s.
Right.
To
So
start.
$40 an hour,
Yeah.
that's 85, 90
Yeah.
a year. So, yeah, and I've said this before on the show. One of the reasons I love water utilities is because you could get a really good job and make really good money without a college degree. And this is one of them. After 4 years, you could, join our program at 18, 19 years old. And by 25, if you follow it through, you can be making close to $100,000 a year.
Right.
It's just great. And we'll support you your whole time
Right.
through.
And I would also like to bring up that, our new hires can also go to Gateway Community College. They can get their associates in water management to help them along, with their, they're getting their class 1, 2, 3, and 4 license. And what's so great about that is that if you are a full-time employee with us for continuously like 6 months, we will pay 100% of your college tuition for your associate's degree to get that water management certification. So, it's a great program. We also partner with Southern. So we do have a couple of employees that have transferred over to Southern and finished their bachelor's degree there after going to Gateway.
And if you're listening 2 weeks from now, we were going to have the dean of the business school at Southern come on to talk about, they actually have a utility management program there. We're going to talk to the dean in a lot of detail about that.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
I just want to point out, so in the treatment world, you wouldn't think it, but we have like electrical engineers too, because the systems that these operators use to watch what's going on, at the treatment plants and to manage all that's called the SCADA system. And they need electrical engineers to make sure that this one system's talking to the other system and that everybody can see what's going on. And obviously for electrical engineer, you need a college degree.
Yes.
For that. All right. So we have now taken care of the water at the source. We've gotten it through the treatment plant. Now we need to get it to people's homes and businesses.
Right.
And that takes a lot of pipes, and that takes a very dedicated group of field operations folks at the RWA. I wanted to talk about those jobs. They are incredibly important jobs, and none of us would be able to shower in the morning without those folks. So let's talk about those jobs. Can you talk about like the variety of jobs I'll just call them field.
Yep.
The variety of jobs within the field, what is required to have those jobs, and the variety of jobs that are out there?
Sure. Yeah. Well, let's start with it's all field operations. So let's start with construction. The construction department handles the new installations of, the pipes. They repair those pipes for the distribution. They respond to leaks or any kind of issues that customers may be having. We do have a crew that's on standby 24/7, which is great. I definitely need that. You don't want to run out of water at 3 o'clock in the morning. And they perform new installations for new developments and system grades. So we typically have, this is a union position. So this position starts at a Utility Tech 1. So Utility Tech 1 is responsible for, of course, repairing and installing and operating the pipe saws and pumps and everything. But one key thing that you really need is a CDL if you want to be a utility tech person. Now, a lot of people go for their CDL and they say, I'm just going to be a truck driver. Well, I'm saying you actually have another path. You don't have to be a truck driver. You get your CDL, and all we require is a B license to operate construction equipment and other vehicles. What you would be doing is just driving to and from the sites, and you would be in the trench. You would be laying down new pipe. It's a very labor-intensive job. However, it is entry level. Again, you don't need a college education. It's all you need is your high school diploma or equivalent and your CDL. So it's
we have some big trucks at the RWA.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah, if you've seen us out on the road, there's some very large trucks.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, it's you learn about OSHA and those requirements, again, all those safety regulations. We like to promote from within. So the great thing that I love about our construction department, and of course, I'm going to get to distribution, is that our utility techs, we've got 3 levels. We have a 1, a 2, and a 3. You learn everything as a 1. You go to a 2, you get a nice bump increase. You get into a new salary grade. And then once you become a 3, you're basically a crew chief. You are the person that is like the foreman. You are telling the crew where they need to go. You're kind of, you've been promoted to almost big boss, which is great. So there is a great career path there. We do have a lot of our construction guys say, hey, I've done all I could in, construction. So I think I'm going to go and check out what distribution is all about.
And what is distribution all
I
about?
can tell you all about distribution. So the difference between distribution and construction lays down all of those pipes. And distribution, they ensure that the delivery happens to our customers, really, as they are turning on pumps and stopping pumps and everything. They're fixing the motors, they're fixing some of the piping, some of the valves that push the water out and through those pipes. So this is a team that really oversees our whole distribution process. And they handle everything from like marking the underground utilities to daily inspections. They also work with the construction department hand in hand on, for any like necessary repairs or anything like that. So the same thing goes for the utility tech 1 for distribution, is that you need to have your valid CDL-B license. You just need a high school diploma or equivalent. And here you'll just be maintaining and repairing the water services. And, you do this one, which is different. You will be doing a little bit more testing in this job. So they do these chlorine testing and disinfection of the water mains and services, which is different than what our construction utility techs do. And again, there's that career progression. You have you can move quickly through the ranks by going utility tech 1, 2, and 3 and to crew chief. And even after that, if you want to be a construction manager, there's other opportunities. You don't just stop at 3. You can keep going further to team lead, manager, director, and above. So,
yeah, and as you said, we do like to promote from within.
Yes.
Most of the managers in construction and distribution started out in the union and have been with the company 20, 30 years. We had a gentleman just last year retired 55 years at the water company. At my old water company, we had a gentleman who retired with 67 years at the water company. Harry Truman was president when he started at the water company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So within field 2, I mean, there are some jobs that require specialized skills, right? Like a backhoe operator. You got to have like a heavy equipment, like, I don't know if it's a license or a specialization, but you can't just hop on a backhoe and start digging holes. You got to be trained and certified, correct?
Right. Yeah. And so one of the things that we do stress a lot is cross training. So we actually have a good handful of our construction and utility tech employees that know how to operate and have a license to be able to operate the payloader. But we have a dedicated payloader employee. But if anything was to happen to him, we do have employees that can operate that, which is great. We do a lot of cross training in the union utility tech jobs because we're always needing help from here, and people call out here. Things happen. So it's also an opportunity to learn all sorts of different parts of the field operations, and gives our union employees more opportunities to move from one division to another. And we encourage that, definitely.
That's awesome. So we've started the source, we've gone through treatment, and now the water's at your house, and now we got to make sure that water is safe to drink. And for that, we have water quality experts, and the RWA actually has a certified lab right at Sargent Drive where we not only test our own water, but a lot of other water utilities, not only in Connecticut, but throughout New England, send their water samples to us to test. Can we, I guess, briefly kind of talk about some of those water quality and lab jobs in the background you have to do that. I imagine you got to have a college education for that, but I'll let you guys correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and please fill any gaps I may miss here. I'm
Sure.
still learning the ropes around here.
Yeah.
But I've been to the lab. I must say it's very impressive. I did not know that we tested other utilities' water. So that's pretty cool to know too. But generally, these individuals, as you mentioned, do have some college background. Don't necessarily need to have a degree, but some college coursework is definitely great to have, specifically in biology or chemistry. A lot of what these individuals do is test the water, and what they're looking for is certain standards, certain plate counts, turbidity, color, odor.
Turbidity is the cloudiness of the water.
Thank you, Kevin.
Do we have the right pH levels? Do we have the right fluoride count, microscopic identification? What kind of organisms are in the water? Is it clean enough to actually get it to our customers? They're also looking for the algae and zooplankton. There's obviously certain standards that the government and the state dictate. So these individuals make sure that the water exceeds those standards. So it's pretty interesting to see what these individuals do on a day-to-day basis. It's a great opportunity for entry-level individuals as well. Again, people right out of school can come in and hopefully get an opportunity or a role within this field. But it's also people who there are components to being outdoors in this role too. So there's other outside the lab positions that they're out there testing the water, make sure the water quality is up to par.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it just in the general public, but we do have sample takers out literally every day, going to sample sites. Some of our sample sites could be a municipal building, could be a McDonald's or a Dunkin' Donuts. Just a place that's easy for us to get in and out without being disruptive, and for us to get samples that are really from the tap, right? We got to make sure that the water that's coming out of the tap is safe. We also have sample sites in the middle distribution system. We actually have kind of we call them sample hydrants, where we'll go take a sample at that point too. And what's kind of cool about the lab is when you're in our headquarters at Sargent Drive, you know who works in the lab because they actually wear lab coats. Yeah, we look like we have a bunch of doctors walking around in their pristine white lab coats, but they're looking into microscopes all day. They're doing microbiological tests all day. And it's vitally important, right? And I'll just kind of put a bow on that. The RWA samples or tests about 100,000 samples a year of our own water. And the results of those samples come out every May, June timeframe in the water quality report that we send to our customers. So we're not just testing it and keeping it behind closed doors. We're sharing the results of all of those tests. Just another way for us to prove that, our water is meeting and exceeding all of the goals. And actually, we're not going to talk about communications, my department, in this, but my department has a pretty big role in putting that report out every year. And it is required by the federal government. Yeah. So we've kind of walked through a lot of the technical jobs, and there's still so many more jobs that the RWA, or so many, I don't say jobs, professions that the water utility requires to operate. So I wanted to quickly kind of go down a bunch of them. Maybe we'll spend a minute or two on each one. Engineering. You got to have a college degree to be an engineer, correct? Yes.
You have to have a college degree.
Yes.
And for certain positions, you have to have your PE.
Which is a
your professional engineer license
Yeah.
through the state of Connecticut.
Which is very difficult.
Which is very
Yeah.
difficult to get, but people get them, and so it's possible.
Yes. And our engineers, they're really the ones who are, I like to say they look towards the future. They kind of look at the future needs of the water utility, and they're responsible for designing and ultimately building the things that are needed for future need, whether it's a water storage tank or a new pipeline somewhere, or even a new water treatment plant. It's our engineers. We have one dam engineer, and I'm not cursing. He's a DAM engineer, because the RWA has a couple dozen dams in our system. And Larry's his name. Larry's our dam engineer, and he is responsible for every one of them. And be on the lookout. Sometime next year, we're going to do an entire show on one specific dam in our system and what we're going to be doing to update that. Customer service. what do I need to have or not have to work in customer service
Sure.
besides patience?
Patience. Yes. Definitely patience. Definitely at least 2 years of customer service. And, we prefer anyone who's dealt with, a high call volume, anyone who has dealt with, billing questions. We service.
Probably computer skills too, because
Yes,
you gotta go
yeah.
really quickly through the computer system as
Yes.
people are asking their questions.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you don't need a college education for this one. It's an entry level position. However, you do need a little bit of that customer service, experience.
And they're also union, correct?
And they are also
at the
union.
RWA,
Yep.
at least.
And-
they're union.
And one thing I could say about the union jobs is that, there's always that next advancement. So right now, we have a part-time messenger position open. Our messengers, they come in and they have no experience, maybe a little bit of customer service experience, but mostly they're part-time. They're doing the mail, they're sorting, they're delivering the mail. We see that job is a stepping stone, an entry-level stepping stone to something else, whether they want to be a customer service representative or they want to move up to a support specialist for the customer service team.
Yeah.
Some of them might want to be a team lead. Some of them might want to be a supervisor. It's just, there's so many different avenues. Not one person is stuck in that one job. There's
and I'll hammer that home.
always
So
cross-training.
our last messenger is now out in the field. He's in field services.
Yes.
And our messenger now is actually in training to move up to be in customer service. And so actually that brings up an interesting thing. With customer service, specifically, we're not just hiring you and you're being thrown on the phones day one. There's a multiple week training program, correct?
Yes.
We're not throwing you to the wolves.
Right. Yes. We have our own in-house customer service trainer, Vicky, and she does a phenomenal job of, I think, 5 weeks of training.
Yeah.
So it's an intense training. However, it's a great hybrid schedule. It's 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. It's a great team. Everyone gets along great. Everyone's known each other for so long.
Yes.
We have a
some,
lot of customer service people been there for a long time.
for 30,
Yes.
40 years.
Yes.
Absolutely. How about finance? So there's kind of a big spectrum of finance
Yeah.
jobs. Do you need a college degree to do all of them? Or
Not all of them.
Okay.
So, accounts receivable, accounts payable. Of course, if you have a degree, that's great, but it's not a requirement.
and then like CPA too, obviously.
Any kind of really it's that on the job experience and that we're looking for, systems experience. And I hear this from time to time. People will say, well, do they have utility experience? They're in finance, they must have utility experience. And I'm like, no, finance can easily fit into utility. It's just another commodity that we as finance people are taking care of. The same thing with human resources. We don't have background in utility, but we have background in human resources, so we can still be a very important asset to the organization. With the career fairs that I go to, people will ask, well, I want to be in finance. Do I need to have utility background? I said, no.
Yeah, if you waited around for finance people with utility background, you'd never hire anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
So, I want to just rifle through some of the other positions, and we don't really need to talk about the background, but it's more just to explain there's still a lot of different various career roles out there that people may not know the RWA has, like plumbing. So the RWA has a whole plumbing business. So we're looking for plumbers. We also, within the utility, have plumbers whose job it is to go around to businesses and check for what's called cross connections to make sure that, industrial water supplies aren't backing up into the drinking water supply. And so we have a team of plumbers that work at that. RWA also has a fleet garage that has lots of mechanics. So, actually that's a good, so if we're hiring for a mechanic, will we hire like right out of mechanic school, or do we want people to have experience? I think we just hired a mechanic. Didn't
Yeah,
we?
we hired a mechanic. We do prefer we do require some kind of mechanic school training, and some, on-the-job experience. And we also require a CDL, mostly for our second shift, because we do work on our own fleet vehicles, and that includes the construction vehicles. So we need someone that has air brake, endorsement, like they need to know about air brakes. And our mechanics will work on those construction vehicles, and they take them out at night. And that's
Right.
why they have
Yeah.
to have their CDL. You cannot drive a construction
Yes.
vehicle without your CDL.
Can't get around that.
No. But I have to say that one of my favorite perks of being an employee at RWA is taking my car into the fleet garage for service. Now, that is another way for us to offset costs for our customers and not increase rates, is that we actually have a full service garage that we service not only employee cars, but we service other businesses' cars as well.
Yes.
And so we make that money, even though we're a nonprofit organization, we use that money for putting it back into water infrastructure and, of course, to our customers.
And just to be clear, employees are not getting their cars fixed for free.
No.
We pay.
Oh, I wish. But no.
So do I. The convenience is you go to work in the morning, and when you
Yeah.
leave, your car's fixed, but there's also a bill to go along with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, there's
Yeah.
a bill. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a convenience more than anything, but it is a
Yes.
nice convenience to get an oil change while you're at work and not have to go do a special
Mhm.
trip.
Exactly.
We also have IT positions, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
My joke with my IT friends is, all they teach in college is to ask, did you turn it off, turn it back on?
Yeah.
But in reality, you do need an education for IT. We also have a police department, which we've talked about in the past. So, and obviously you need to go through the police academy
Yes,
before you
have
can
to
do
be.
that.
Yeah.
And we just hired a bunch of new police officers last year. So, and what those police officers do most of the time is they patrol the watershed property, the 27,000 acres, make sure there's no trespassing, illegal ATV use, illegal hunting, all that stuff. So they're out there protecting the watershed. I want to wrap up this careers in water discussion with, we talked about schooling and all that. Let's talk about interns. We have an internship program.
We do.
So
yes.
let's spend a couple of minutes talking about the
Of
interns.
course.
What kind of positions can the interns have, and are they paid? Yeah.
So let's, we'll start with the easier one. I call the summer internship the easier one. And I think it's the best eye opener for our, college students. So every March we go to local colleges, mostly Southern, and that's where I look for my summer interns. So we usually have about 10 interns for the summer for 10 weeks, and they go through 2 different departments. We do have a lot who are in administration, finance, a lot in marketing. They love marketing communications. So they'll spend some time learning that, 5 weeks on one department, 5 weeks in another department. And then they get to, hopefully decide which career path they would like to go through. Is this something that they want to do? So it's kind of like a discovery internship. We do have another internship called the Graduate Development Program. So that one is actually open. It's called graduate, but it's open to undergrad and to graduate students. So right now we do have one GDP, and she's in our environmental department. Her name is Julia, and she's doing great. We are hoping that she will become our next aquatic scientist in a junior supporting role, of course, because she is still in college. But once she graduates, the intent is to have her sign on full time with RWA. And that was what this program is all about. It started in IT, where we have 3 success stories. We have 2 who graduated with their masters, and when they graduated, they were placed in a position. And we have one undergrad who was placed in the help desk area of IT. So it's on the job training. We make sure that they're doing their, doing their schoolwork, that they're, going to graduate. Once they graduate and they do great on the job, that's when we place them in a full-time.
And they're all
position.
paid, right? The interns?
Yep.
It's paid
They're
internships.
all paid. All internships are paid.
So there you go. We have kind of covered the gamut. If you're an RWA employee and listening to this and we didn't mention your department or your specific job, I apologize. We tried to cover everything in the time we have. So before we get on out of here, it's time for the 5 unrelated questions. This is where we ask questions that have nothing to do with what we just talked about for the last 45 minutes. We'll start with Tom. Do you have any pets?
2. I have a chocolate lab and a mini pin chihuahua mix.
Names?
Wallabean and teddy bear.
Nice. Jennifer, pets.
I have a cat named Loki and a dog named Suki.
Okay, there you go. Favorite musician or band? Jennifer.
I'd have to say the Beatles.
Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin. I hate Led Zeppelin. Sorry.
Ah,
I feel like Led Zeppelin is a
That's-
glorified cover band.
Oh.
They stole most of their music from old blues artists. But anyway, we can talk about that later.
Tell us how you really.
Yeah, I have very strong opinions on them. I think they're very talented musicians individually, but put them together and they just steal. And now I'm going to get sued by Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
What is your favorite hobby, Tom? When you're not at work, what are you doing?
Golfing.
Golfing. What's your lowest score?
84.
Sweet. Jennifer?
I
hobby?
don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means. Hobby. Book writing.
Book writing.
Yes.
Nice.
Book writing.
You're our first book writer.
I'm an author.
Most controversial question besides the pizza question we started with. Jennifer, cookies, brownies, or ice cream?
All of them.
No. Gotta pick one.
Okay, no, wait. It's a Sunday.
No.
Okay? I think you need to know. Wait. Ice cream.
No.
Sprinkle the brownies on top. Cookies.
You
Okay,
only can pick one.
how can you only pick one?
You gotta pick one.
Okay, fine. It'll be cookies.
Cookie. What
Yeah.
kind? Chocolate chip? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cookie
Ice cream would have to be.
flavor?
Moose tracks.
Moose track. That's
Peanut butter cups, fudge.
gotcha.
Vanilla.
Vanilla ice
That
cream.
sounds right.
All right.
I'm hungry
There, yes, that's my goal here. And maybe 30 seconds each on your favorite teacher in school. We'll start with
boy.
Jennifer.
now. My favorite teacher was Professor Reese from Goodwin University. What I liked about her, or what I learned so much about her, was microbiology. She was like the collector of fungus and spores, and just she loved anything gross and disgusting, and she made everything fun. And that's what I loved about her. Is just the grosser it was, the better it was, the more we get to look at interesting things under a microscope.
Nice.
But yeah,
What about
good.
you, Tom? Favorite teacher?
Yeah, I was with the high school. I was Coach Schuler, so he was one of the most winningest basketball coaches in state. Just the way he approached his classes each day and the way he taught us was more like preparing us for college in a lot of ways. I mean, as
And what did you
supposed to.
teach?
History,
History.
and his approach is different. It's like, hey, you can do the work or you can't do the work, but if you don't do the work, you're not going to get a good grade, right? And that's
Simple, right?
simple philosophy, but at the end of the day, the amount of buy-in that he got from the class, the way he operated, everyone seemed to enjoy him, and just a generally great person overall. So
Great.
that's my favorite.
Love here. I think teachers are the unsung heroes in this world, and that's
And
why I
most
asked that
underpaid.
question. And the most underpaid. So that brings us to an end of what I found to be a very interesting conversation about careers in water. And for our listeners, if you take one thing away from this, it's that water utilities, especially the RWA, has a plethora of different professions that it takes to get water from a reservoir to your house and to make it safe and to keep it protected and to test it. There's a whole lot of careers out there. So if you're interested in careers in the water industry, the RWA, you can visit our website. It's rwater.com. You can also go to awwa.org, which is the National Association for Water People. It's the association of the American Water Works Association, AWWA. They are the ones who come up with a lot of curriculum for what is taught to be in a water career. So if you're interested in a water career, those are two great sources I encourage you to visit them. I also encourage you to come back to us in 2 weeks where we'll be talking more about careers in water with Southern Connecticut State University, the dean of the business school there. We're going to be talking about water. So thank you for joining us. This has been Liquid Lunch with the Regional Water Authority here on 103.5. If you want to listen to us again, and why wouldn't you,